Does Baylor football have a major injury problem at a key position? All signs point to it.
You are Locked On Baylor, your daily podcast on the Baylor Bears. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello there, Bears fans. Welcome to another episode of Locked On Baylor, brought to you by FanDuel. I'm your host, Cam Stuart of ESPN Central Texas and The Cam Show on YouTube. Appreciate you guys making this your first listen today and every day. We have got a fully loaded show for you today. We're talking about the big time, kind of out of nowhere injury concern that Baylor football has on defense and the writing on the wall that proves as much. Plus, why are Big 12 coaches here to try and make the NCAA tournament even bigger? We don't need that. We'll tell you why we don't need that and the stupid excuses that they're using to expand it. Plus, you ready to see your Baylor Bears on the CW? You ready to see it? See them smeltering in the 120-degree heat? Can't wait. We've got kickoff times for the first 3 weeks of the season. And, of course, that'll spark some controversy as well. All that and more coming up on this episode of Locked On Baylor. So be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel. It's completely free, helps me keep my job, and helps us on the path towards 4,000 subscribers, which we are knocking on that door, folks. Find us on YouTube. And, of course, definitely listen wherever you find your podcasts as well. That helps out the channel a ton. Before getting into the football stuff today, I do want to thank you guys again for kind of your patience from yesterday's show, which a lot of you still watched and listened to. That was just a kind of a tribute to Alex Foster. It really didn't feel right to do anything else. I know it was a quick show and you guys expect, 30 minutes every day. But that one, I would have felt it odd to talk about anything else and to, do a FanDuel read after that. It just didn't feel right. I didn't want to do any gotcha kind of cold open or anything like that. So I do appreciate you guys who still watched it and listened and understood why we had to do it that way. So it's still, prayers up to the Foster family and to that whole community around Alex Foster. So I appreciate you guys for that. And the irony is I will now segue into a show that we will talk about Baylor football and things going on around it. It seems the Bears might have an injury concern that has kind of flown under all of our noses here because they made a portal pickup yesterday, Thursday. Actually, it was Wednesday, wasn't it? It was Wednesday. Placide Djungu-Sungu, which is a really fun name to say. The safety from Duke comes in as a junior. He is a Texas product. He played at Martin High School in Arlington, kind of like Calvin Simpson-Hunt in a lot of ways, right? Except without the national championship ring, in that he's a defensive back. He's from North Texas. They played at other Power 4 programs and didn't get a lot of snaps. Calvin Simpson-Hunt was mainly a special teamer for Ohio State. Placide Djungu-Sungu, pretty much the same thing at Duke. Didn't see the field a lot. In fact, only 18 total tackles in basically 4 years. He comes in with a year of eligibility. And so it's one that, okay, good depth piece. But when you look in between the lines, he might need to start. So Devin Turner, who they brought in from Northwestern, did sustain an injury at the kind of, what do we call it this year? The Baylor Blitz, right? Not the spring game. We don't do spring games. He sustained an injury and haven't really heard anything about it, any kind of severity or anything. But a week ago, he posted this picture, for those of you watching on YouTube, on his Instagram. And it's him clearly in a hospital or some kind of operating room, big brace around his right knee, right leg, that says start of a new journey. Oh, that's cryptic. That's not great. He's clearly had surgery there to what we don't know, but probably a knee. And so maybe it's a little bit more than just a knock he sustained at the spring finale Baylor Blitz. Devin Turner is, you can make an argument he was one of the most valuable guys they picked up in this offseason, coming in from Northwestern, just outside my home studio right here in Evanston. He was a big-time player. He was an all Big Ten honorable mention in 2024. Actually, TCU was after him pretty hard on this chase as well. And some of these great stats, which are, this is coming from Grayson Grundhofer, really shows how much his game has elevated. Took a major step in 2024. This is all from PFF. He raised his overall defensive grade from 67.9 to 77.4. That's a pretty big jump for an overall grade. Pass rush grade, pass rush by a defensive back. They thought they were getting that last year from Kendrick Simpkins. They did not. It seemed like they were getting it this year from Devin Turner because he went from 52 to 83. Now, these are kind of arbitrary numbers, but to round up or to go up by 30 points is pretty impressive. And his coverage grade, which is more valuable for a safety, right? Last line of defense, went up 21 points, according to PFF. Now, that tells me this is a guy who can play any kind of style you want from the safety position. He can play in the box. He can rush the passer. He can even get out there and cover deep posts. Okay? He can do all of that. He's a playmaker, too. He had couple interceptions last year, four picks in the last 2 seasons, and 8 PBUs in the last 2 seasons. The guy can do it all. And I was super excited about him coming in. And I'd heard about, him getting banged up in the practice, but that picture on Instagram, that sounds kind of serious. It sounds like he's had surgery to the point, serious enough to the point where on May 28th, you went out and picked up another safety who was just kind of out there, hadn't played a lot, mostly special teams, who only has a year of eligibility remaining himself. It's not good. And nothing against our new pal, Placide Djungu-Sungu. He could play a role for this team. No offense to him, but Devin Turner was a major upgrade at safety. And now it doesn't look like he's going to be at least fully healthy. If not, it doesn't look like he's going to be out there at all. This is surgery after the spring game here. That could take a while to recover. This could be a big issue for Baylor. Again, we don't know the severity. This is speculation. Surgery is surgery. No such thing as minor surgery, as wise people have once said. But this is one of the most important positions for Baylor at safety, and specifically the defensive backfield. It was shredded towards the end of last year. You went out, you got a new positional coach, passing game coordinator, defensive backs coach, corners coach, Paul Gonzalez. He's kind of has his hands on all of that in the defensive backfield. And Devin Turner was kind of the jewel of that part of the portal class. We're excited about Calvin Simpson-Hunt, some of these other depth pieces, but Devin Turner was the best defensive back you got out of the portal last year. And Placide Djungu-Sungu is probably coming in as a break glass in case of emergency thing here. So the fact that you got another safety this late in the game, months after getting your last safety, and your other safety is posting a picture after surgery, all signs point to an injury concern and a position that Baylor really can't afford it. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below, or tweet at us at Locked On Baylor if you're listening on the podcast. Coming up next, we'll shift our focus to basketball. Who says we shouldn't have a bigger NCAA tournament? I do. I'll tell you why coming up next on Locked On Baylor. But first, today's episode of Locked On Baylor is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are here, and it brings the excitement every single night. Highlight-worthy performances, momentum shifts, the can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. And FanDuel, they make it easy to stay in the game before the game tips off and while it's going on. Player props, performance trends, same-game parlays. Fans have more ways than ever to play smart and to win big. If you've got a read on who's heating up, why not back yourself up, man? Put your money where your mouth is with the same game parlay, okay? What would it look like to combine those live prop bets mid-game based on how the action is actually unfolding? That's all in your hands. And if you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. And if it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Let me say that one more time for the folks in the back. FanDuel.com, place that first $5 bet. When it wins, you're going to get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. Before these guys get to the NBA, they star in the NCAA tournament. It's our favorite time of year, right? Specifically, that first weekend of the NCAA tournament, mid-March, you take a couple of days off work, and you've got nothing but basketball games, man. Most years you have Cinderella stories. Well, not this year. Cinderella stories, bracket busters, all kinds of chaos. You might even call it madness. We love it. It's genuinely one of the greatest things in sports. So why mess with it? Or then again, why not give you more of it? That's kind of what's weighing on the college basketball coaches now, because there has been another proposal that has gone out to expand the NCAA tournament. This is coming from the Associated Press. NCAA President Charlie Baker said Thursday he sees value in expanding the NCAA tournament by a handful of teams and wants to reach a decision on the matter in the next few months. So, we're kind of getting into the nitty-gritty of it. Kansas coach Bill Self said fellow Big 12 coaches seem to favor an NCAA tourney expansion. The Big 12 had 7 bids in 2025. That was half of what the SEC had. And look, I actually don't think the Big 12 really got screwed outside of West Virginia, which was a pretty big screw job. It's one of the biggest screw jobs I've ever seen in the NCAA tournament selection. They were absolutely hosed. But I don't think the Big 12 was in this position where they were like, we should have had 3 or 4 more teams. We should have had 10. We should have had 12. I don't think they were like that. So that's why I'm kind of surprised to see this. And honestly, I'm surprised at how many coaches want this to be a bigger field. This was 1 year that the SEC really dominated the field and had a lot more teams than the Big 12. I think that makes us look like the way the SEC looks in football. If that's our kind of modus operandi to say, oh, we didn't get enough. We only got 7 teams in there when we should have had 8. Let's expand the field by 6 or 8 teams. I don't think that's right. And I could be a sourpuss here. I could be a boomer. I love the NCAA tournament too. But why does it need to be more? Okay? At some point, 16 was not enough. 32 was not enough. Then we really expanded it to 64 and 85. And it's like that's a good, healthy number. That's a bigger playoff than anything else outside of high school state tournaments that you've ever seen. Okay? That's 64 to now 68 is a massive number. Okay? And however many teams you have, there's always going to be Cinderella stories. There were Cinderellas at 16, at 32, at 64, at 68. There's going to be more if you add to that. So I don't love that argument of let's get some more Cinderella stories in there. There's going to be Cinderella stories no matter what. And Charlie Baker, the former Rhino governor of Massachusetts, is the one at the head of this now, at the head of the NCAA, and he's wanting this tournament field to be expanded. He's discussing the idea of expanding from 68 teams to either 72 or 76. On the surface, not a huge difference, right? That's 4 to 8 teams, 68 to 72 or 76. But what I hate is reasoning, because I think it's so dumb and can be used in pretty much any walk of life. He says, if you have a tournament that's got 64 or 68 teams in it, you're going to have a bunch of teams that are probably among what most people consider to be the best 68 or 70 teams in the country that aren't going to make the tournament, period. The point behind going from 68 to 72 to 76 or 76 is basically to give some of those schools that were probably among the 72, 76, 68, 64 best teams in the country a way into the tournament. This is so dumb. This is so dumb. Because I could say the same thing about football. The SEC would say the same thing about football. There are teams that fit into the best 12 teams in college football. They don't make it. Those are the rules that you have outlined as an organization, brother. Okay? That's not, hey, the coaches are saying, yeah, we need to have this, and this. That's the NCAA's outlines. Automatic qualifiers, conference tournament champions, all that crap. That's the NCAA. And he's like, well, whoever did this is stupid. You guys did that. But now he has the chance to change it. And the first part of his argument is somehow even dumber. Okay? Because he's now, or the second part, excuse me, saying now if we raise this to 76, all the deserving teams will get in. I would once again say, turn your head, Charlie. Pivot to what the college football playoff is going through right now. They had 1 year of 12 teams, and already the powers that be in college football are saying that's not good enough. We need to have 16. And you know what? I can't believe we need to explain this, but let's say you go to a 16-team college football playoff. There will always be a 17th team. If you go to 72 in the NCAA tournament, there will always be a number 73. There will always be a number 77. There will always be a number 121. However many teams you want to put in this tournament, there are always going to be teams on the outside that feel they should be in. Always. And it's never going to stop. And most years, they're going to be Power 4 teams because that's the teams you know. That's the teams that the coaches that you know will vie for to be in the NCAA tournament. Charlie, I don't care how many teams you put in this tournament. That's never going to change. Like, that's life. That is basic life. You need to draw a line somewhere. Just moving it back by 4 or 6 or 8 is not going to do anything. In fact, what you are going to get are those Virginia teams, like you saw last year, going to the NCAA tournament and have no business being there. And they're losing by 25 points. And so for those of you who loved the tournament this year because there was no double-digit seed getting blown out in the Sweet 16, even though we all love that, but those of you who think good things suck and was happy that it was 4 number 1 seeds in the Final Four, guess what? If you're sticking up for this expansion, you're just getting more of that. You're getting more teams getting blown out that you don't feel like they should be there. So yeah, you might end up with the 4 number 1 seeds. Fun, great. But you're also going to get more St. Peter's, Oklahoma's, West Virginia's, maybe Virginia, that aren't really supposed to be there. And they get blown out. And for some reason, you don't like that. Baker, this is from the ESPN story. Baker cited a competitive Indiana State team falling short of the tournament as an example. Indiana State went on to play Seton Hall in the NIT title game in 2024, which he referred to as one of the best games that spring. Yeah, your committee left them out. Like, that wasn't a numbers issue. That was overlooking it. Was that Oklahoma getting in, I think, over Indiana State? It was stupid. But this goes back to the NCAA's archaic rules of you have to win your conference tournament to get in as a mid-major, most mid-majors. Like, Indiana State should have just been in. They won the Missouri Valley pretty comfortably as a regular season team. They had a great story in Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Remember him? Robbie Avila. And your committee didn't let them in. And so now you're just like Tim Robinson with the hot dog suit. We're all trying to find the guys who did this. You guys did this. There's always going to be a 69th team. Nice. There's always going to be a 73rd team, a 77th team. You're not solving that. And you're just going to end up becoming like what the college football playoff is doing. And like, that's not for the better. I'm sorry. It's just not. And once in a while, you will have that 70th ranked team in a 72 team tournament make a run. That's always going to happen in the NCAA tournament. So what I mean by that is you're not denying Cinderella story, or you're not denying more Cinderella stories by doing this. You're always going to have them, except for once every 10 or 15 years, which just so happened to be 2025, that doesn't happen. So yeah, I'm against it. I am against it. I know a lot of you probably aren't. You're probably thinking, Cam, let's think about this simply. We love the NCAA tournament. Let's have more teams in there. I just think we're we're really on the precipice of it getting watered down. And that's what the NCAA wants to do because it gets more money. It's going to, I think, take away from what is the greatest tournament that we have in sports. And Bill Self and maybe Scott Drew, who knows? Maybe Scott Drew, he's talked about expanding it in the past. He wanted all the teams to get in one year, remember? And these Big 12 coaches are a part of this. And I don't know. It's not the end of the world. I just think it kind of stinks. You know what else stinks? Some of the kickoff times for Baylor football and where they're going to be playing and what the temperature is going to be like when they're playing. We have the kickoffs of the first 3 Baylor football games, and they are sparking controversy. That's next on Locked On Baylor. Getting you into the weekend on Locked On Baylor here. We did get some early season Baylor football news as it was announced on Thursday, the kickoff times of the first 3 games of the year. Baylor-Auburn, no surprise, 7 p.m. Central Time on that Friday night, August 29th. Sounds right. Week 1. And it will be primetime, national television, ESPN. Huge, huge deal. The next week is when we start playing games, and not the good kind. We're playing like circus games here. Because the next week, week 2, Baylor will face a college football playoff team in the SMU Mustangs. They will play them at 11 a.m. Central Time on the CW. So if you're watching One Tree Hill reruns on a Saturday morning, you will lead right into Baylor and SMU, an Old Southwest Conference battle, and then you'll likely get Smallville right afterwards. Little nice little breakup to your breakup television kind of day. Baylor and SMU. Is that like... I know we've made fun of the ACC with this before, but that's such a joke, man. Like here you have 2 teams that'll likely be ranked to start the year, right? SMU just made the ACC championship game and the college football playoff last year. And they can't do any better than getting a game on the CW at 11 a.m. Central Time in week 2. Which is early September. It's likely going to be roughly, 108 degrees. Yeah. And you're going to play it in the early afternoon, most of the game. That's good. Plenty of coverage, by the way. Plenty of shade at Ford Stadium in College Park, University Park, at SMU. Plenty. Yeah. It's going to work out really well. So here you go. Here's your SMU team that thinks they're so big time. They're so huge. So they made the college football playoff, which is a heck of an accomplishment for them. And I'm not here to say that Baylor's really big time, but SMU thinks they're so big time, and they're playing an old rival whom they haven't beaten in 40 years. And you're going to play them at 11 a.m. in a stadium that's probably, hopefully, going to have enough Baylor fans to be 70% full. And it's going to be played on the CW. Like that's a joke. And I can't believe those fans have the balls, quite frankly, to dump on the Big 12 and schools like Baylor. Like, we're not playing on the CW. ESPN Plus is even better than that. Which, by the way, the next week is on ESPN Plus. That's against Samford. Of course it's going to be on ESPN Plus. But once again, they're playing at 11 a.m. Why? It's going to be so hot. Like as any of us, all of us know, right? We've all been to games. We've all existed and lived in Texas and seen that. It's grotesque how hot it is those first couple of weeks of the season. And so Baylor will always try to play night games. And this is kind of out of Baylor's control, so to speak. So this is not dumping on Baylor. When you're playing a game on ESPN Plus, why does it matter the time frame? Why don't you play it at night? Like, that doesn't make any sense. It's not on a network, so play it at any time of day. But really play it at 7 p.m. when you can actually not die on the field. Like, that's ridiculous to me. So, of course, I got to bring you some more bitching into the weekend. I got to bring you some more commentary, some more controversy. Like, really? We couldn't have figured that out, ESPN Plus? Really, SMU? This is your conference that you're not even getting the revenue from, by the way. You're not even getting a cut of that CW deal. Like I would love the folks from One Tree Hill to just segue us into the pregame show. Can we get Chad Michael Murray, Sophia Bush, James Lafferty like on the desk in the pregame? Can we get them with a mascot head on, making some predictions? I think that would be a great addition to any game that you have to play on the CW, because that's where Baylor's slotted for. They're going to be the number one national game in week 1, Friday night. And then they are going to be playing at 11 a.m. They're going to be playing in the AM and on something called the CW in week 2. I don't know. It's just ridiculous. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel. Of course, find us wherever you find your podcasts as well. Appreciate you coming in for another week. Give me all your thoughts on whatever in the comments below, and we will see you on Monday on your favorite show. Thanks for making it your first listen today and every day. Locked On Baylor.